The rain poured heavily outside the glass windows, tapping against the building like 1,000 impatient fingers. Jungkook groaned softly, staring at his phone. The weather app confirmed his fear. No buses, no taxis nearby, and the last train had already departed. He was stuck. Still here the deep voice made him jump. Taehyung stood a few steps away, one hand casually tucked into his pocket, the other holding his umbrella. His sharp suit looked impossibly perfect, even after such a long day. I was waiting for the rain to stop, Jungkook admitted, trying not to sound pathetic. Taehyung tilted his head, studying him. You'll catch a cold if you wait here all night. I'll be fine, Jungkook began, but Taehyung cut him off by extending the umbrella. Come with me, Jungkook blinked. Excuse me, I'll drive you home. Taehyung's tone left no room for argument. The younger man hesitated, heart pounding, but followed reluctantly. The elevator ride down was suffocatingly quiet, the air charged with something unspoken. Jungkook could feel Taehyung's gaze brushing against him in the reflection of the mirrored walls. When they stepped outside, Taehyung opened the umbrella, and without a word, pulled Jungkook closer so they could both fit under its small arc. Their shoulders brushed, the heat of Taehyung's body seeping through the thin fabric of Jungkook's shirt. Jungkook's breath caught. You don't have to, don't argue, Taehyung said calmly, but his voice was lower, softer than usual. Just stay close. The car ride was no easier. The silence between them felt heavier than words, broken only by the sound of rain on the windshield. At one point, when the car jolted suddenly at a red light, Jungkook's hand brushed against Taehyung's on the gear shift. He yanked his hand back instantly, face burning. Sorry, Taehyung's lips curved into the faintest smirk. Careful, secretary. If you keep getting flustered around me, I might start to think you like me. Jungkook's eyes widened, his heart thudding so loudly he was afraid Taehyung could hear it. He turned his face to the window, praying the rain would drown out the sound of his racing heartbeat. But Taehyung, watching him quietly from the driver's seat, let a small, secret smile play on his lips, the kind of smile no one else had ever seen. The office buzzed with unusual excitement the next morning. Employees whispered in corners, stealing glances at the elevator as if waiting for someone important. Jungkook frowned, clutching the files he was about to deliver to Taehyung's office. What's going on? He asked a passing colleague. Haven't you heard? The man whispered. The CEO's business partner from London is here. He's, well, let's just say, he's more than a partner. Jungkook blinked in confusion. More than a partner? The elevator doors opened, and out stepped a tall, confident man with striking features and a warm smile that contrasted sharply with Taehyung's icy aura. He moved with ease, heading straight toward Taehyung's office as if he belonged there. Minho, Taehyung greeted, his voice carrying rare warmth that startled Jungkook. He almost never heard the CEO's tone softened like that. Jungkook stood frozen at the doorway, holding the files awkwardly as he watched Minho stride inside and clasp Taehyung's shoulder in a way that felt far too familiar. Long time no see, Minho said smoothly, his smile genuine. Still as serious as ever, Taehyung chuckled softly, something Jungkook had never heard before. Some things don't change. Jungkook's chest tightened unexpectedly. He hated how natural they looked together, how Taehyung seemed almost human in Minho's presence. Who's this? Minho finally asked, his eyes landing on Jungkook. Taehyung's expression shifted back to neutral. My secretary. Jian Jungkook. Minho's gaze lingered on him a second too long, his smile widening. So this is the famous secretary I've heard about. Famous Jungkook stuttered, startled. Word gets around, Minho said smoothly, offering his hand. His grip was firm, his gaze sharp, as if testing him. Enough, Taehyung interrupted, his tone cool again. Jungkook, bring us coffee. Black, as usual, yes, sir, Jungkook muttered, forcing a polite smile before leaving the room. But as he stood at the coffee machine, his hands trembled slightly. He hated the way Minho looked at him, hated the way Taehyung laughed so easily around him. And most of all, he hated the ache in his chest that whispered one undeniable truth: he was jealous. Inside the office, Taehyung's eyes followed Jungkook's retreating figure longer than he should have. Minho noticed the subtle shift and smirked knowingly. You've changed, Tae, Minho said casually. And I think I know why. Taehyung's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Outside, Jungkook pressed his lips together, trying to steady his breathing. He wasn't sure what was happening between them, but one thing was certain: this job, this CEO, and these feelings were becoming far more complicated than he ever imagined. The next day, Minho lingered in the office longer than necessary. Meetings, shared lunches, hushed conversations in Taehyung's office. He seemed to find any excuse to be near the CEO. Jungkook tried to ignore it. He had no right to feel the tightness in his chest, no right to glare at Minho's charming smile or the way Taehyung, his boss, seemed less icy around him. But things reached their breaking point in the late afternoon. Jungkook, Minho called smoothly from across the lounge area, waving him over with a grin. Join us for coffee. Jungkook froze, glancing nervously at Taehyung, who was sitting across from Minho. The CEO's face was unreadable, his dark eyes watching every move. I shouldn't, Jungkook began. Nonsense, Minho interrupted, pulling out a chair beside him. I want to get to know the man who survived working under this guy. He nudged Taehyung lightly, chuckling. Reluctantly, Jungkook sat. His hands fidgeted under the table as Minho leaned closer, far too close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. So, how is it? Working for the great Kim Taehyung? Jungkook laughed awkwardly. Difficult, but manageable. Minho hummed, his eyes flicking briefly to Taehyung before returning to Jungkook. You must be tougher than you look. The compliment made Jungkook's cheeks warm, but before he could reply, a sharp voice cut through the air. That's enough. Both Jungkook and Minho turned. Taehyung's expression was calm, but his eyes burned with something dangerously close to anger. Taehyung, Minho started. I said, that's enough. Taehyung's tone left no room for argument. He stood abruptly, his hand closing around Jungkook's wrist with a firm grip. Come with me. Jungkook's eyes widened. Sir, but Taehyung didn't wait for an answer. He pulled Jungkook to his feet and out of the lounge, leaving Minho smirking behind them. In the hallway, Jungkook finally yanked his hand free, his heart racing. What was that? Taehyung turned on him, eyes sharp. You don't sit with him. You don't let him talk to you like that. Do you understand? Jungkook blinked in shock. Why? He was being friendly. Taehyung scoffed, his jaw tightening. That man doesn't do anything without an agenda, and you care because Jungkook challenged you, his voice trembling with both anger and confusion. Taehyung froze, his lips pressing into a thin line. For a moment, the CEO mask slipped, Jealousy, raw and unfiltered, flickered in his eyes. "Because you're mine," he said before he could stop himself. The words hung heavy between them. Jungkook's breath hitched, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. Taehyung's eyes widened slightly, realizing what he'd said. He turned away abruptly, his voice low and strained. "You're my secretary. Don't forget that," and with that, he walked away, leaving Jungkook rooted to the spot, stunned, his face burning. "Mine?" Those words echoed in his chest long after Taehyung had gone. Jungkook avoided Taehyung for 2 days. Every time he remembered the CEO's words, "because you're mine," his chest tightened. Did Taehyung mean it? Or was it just another display of control, a reminder of their roles? But avoiding him was impossible. He was Taehyung's secretary. And eventually, fate cornered them again. It was late at night in the office. The building was empty, save for the two of them. Jungkook was gathering his things when Taehyung's voice broke the silence. "You've been avoiding me?" Jungkook froze. Slowly, he turned to face him. Taehyung stood near the window, the city lights casting a soft glow against his sharp features. For once, he didn't look like the cold CEO, he looked human. "I wasn't," Jungkook started, but his voice faltered under Taehyung's piercing gaze. "You were." Taehyung's tone softened, almost pleading. "Jungkook, look at me." Hesitantly, Jungkook met his eyes. "I didn't mean to scare you," Taehyung said quietly. "When I said you're mine, I didn't mean as just a secretary." Jungkook's heart skipped. "Then, what did you mean?" Taehyung stepped closer, each word carefully measured. "You're the first person who's ever challenged me. Who stayed, even when I made it impossible. You don't just follow orders, you care. You see me." His voice wavered slightly, as though he was bearing a part of himself he'd kept locked away. "I don't want Minho, or anyone, near you. I don't want anyone else making you smile. He hesitated, then finally admitted, "I want to be the reason you smile." Jungkook's breath caught. His heart pounded so loudly, he could hardly think. "Sir," he whispered, unsure what to say. Taehyung took the last step forward, close enough that Jungkook could feel the warmth of his body. "Don't call me sir right now." The silence stretched, heavy and fragile. And then, before Jungkook could overthink, Taehyung leaned down and kissed him. It wasn't commanding like his usual self. It was tentative, searching, like a man afraid of losing the only real thing he never had. Jungkook's eyes fluttered it shut, and he melted into it, his hands gripping Taehyung's suit jacket as if anchoring himself. When they finally broke apart, Jungkook's lips curved into a shy smile. Taehyung stared, his chest tightening. It was the first time anyone had ever seen it, the CEO, cold and untouchable, smiling back. "You've ruined me, Jungkook," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Jungkook's forehead. "Because now, I can't imagine a life without you." Jungkook laughed softly, still breathless. "Then it's a good thing I'm not planning on leaving." And in that quiet office, with the city lights shimmering around them, the ruthless CEO and his stubborn secretary stood together, two broken halves finally finding their whole. For the first time, Taehyung smiled. Not the smirk his employees feared, not the polite smile for shareholders, but a real, genuine smile. And it was only for Jungkook.